Hey fans, great to have you back for the Next Step podcast. This is episode 44, almost two whole handfuls. And today we have a very special guest with us. Janna Smith is the wife of Easy Smith. You met Easy last year, first of last year. He was one of our first podcasts we did, but now we've got somebody even better. Anyway, so welcome, Janna. We're glad you're here at the Next Step podcast.
Well, thank you. That was a great introduction. I'll have to make sure Easy watches this later so he knows.
And Knox and Z are her children and his children.
Yes.
They're a great couple together, but it's just great to be able to have you here today because I've known you for a long time and your family for a long time. You've been part of the Point Church off and on ever since your children were little or maybe even before, right?
Yeah, they'll be 11 next month. And our first service, we actually came to the YMCA with them and their little baby carriers. Right. And they were probably 6 months old at the time. So.
All right, so let's camp out there for just a minute with having twins. All right, so we've talked a little bit in preparation for today about what was it like when you had twins when they were little. And we have a lot of mothers that are out there that would watch this and that kind of stuff. And just tell us some of the things that you shared with me about what it was like to have two little ones that were twins.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly, I think any mother can say that you don't know any different. You know, you kind of get what God gives you and then you deal with it. So God must have really thought that I was capable because he'll never give you more than you can handle, right? And I got two. So, I mean, it was definitely unexpected. A lot of restless nights, sleep schedules. I had a
Did you know you were going to have twins? Okay, you did. So before you birthed them, you knew.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So it was funny. Easy and I, it was funny. We had been married. We were, let's start a family. We had a really small 800 square foot apartment across from Ed's Tavern in Dilworth. And we was like, we could probably have a baby. And he was just starting his business. I went to my first doctor's appointment. They're like, we have an ultrasound tech here. Do you want to have a visit? And I was by myself. Yeah. That was my first mistake.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So they pull up the little thing, and I'm like, is that two beans? Like, what? They're like, that's two babies. And I was like, oh my gosh, I started crying. It was not excitement, it was fear. I'm not gonna lie. It was total fear. I was like, we don't have enough chest or drawers to put babies in. So we had to, pick up, change, find a place to live, pivot.
So what happened? Did you call Easy while the sonogram was on?
Yeah, he laughed and said, I got to get back to work. And I was like, thanks. So when I got home, I said, did you not believe me? He said, oh, I knew you weren't kidding. And he's like, I just realized I had to make a lot more money in that moment.
Right. So he's like, I got to get back to work now.
Yeah, he was like, I got to work. Talk to you later. And hung up on me.
I love it. I love Easy. He starts his morning out at 4 o'clock in the morning. And he's got his little red business book he reads every day. But grateful for his influence in the world, too.
He alone wakes up that early. Let's just say that.
Yeah. I don't get a pulse till about 6:30.
Same.
Anyway.
And that's because I'm trying to make my pulse.
You were telling me yesterday as we were getting ready for this. By the way, we've been working on this for 24 hours because we had some equipment that went missing, but fortunately we've replaced it and that kind of stuff. How do you get yourself out of bed? Maybe some other men and women can identify.
It's usually self-negotiation. It's more or less being like, okay, you got 5 minutes. You can brush your teeth in 5 minutes. You don't need coffee. Just And
you start checking things off the list, hit the snooze button.
Scratching it off. Like, this isn't going to happen today. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I've got to get to carpool or I'm never going to get home. Right. So it's usually.
Didn't you say you threw your hair out of the bed first? So that you
I grabbed my hair and throw it out of the bed. I'm like, oh, let's go. Let's get this done. I'm not a morning person at all. I'm a night owl for sure.
I love it. I understand. I get that. Yeah. So back to the baby. So what was it like when you had two twins?
It was a lot. It was, I actually kept a book for their first year. And I know this sounds really gross, and moms, I'm sure you will feel this, but you're just so tired.
Yeah.
And I actually kept a book, and everything that went in or out of them, I documented.
Oh, so wow.
Every ounce of milk, every poop, every pee, how many, and then every day I wrote like a little excerpt about the day.
Wow.
And on their first birthday, I actually went back and read through a bunch of them, and now I read it with them. And there's a lot of tear-soaked pages, but honestly, looking back on it, I wouldn't have traded that for the world.
Wow, that is so cool. So one of these days, they'll really mean a lot to them.
Yeah, they owe me.
Yeah, that's right. You owe me.
Yeah, so I mean, it was fun to see them. I mean, you get a lot of attention when you have twins.
Sure.
So the matching, they had little cranial band helmets. So we got those painted like fighter pilots. Yeah. The two push cars down the street it was just always so cute. And looking back on all of our pictures, it's just, it was magical. I'm glad I documented that.
And you guys didn't have like a whole, like, when the babies dropped out of the sky from the store, a whole big bag of money didn't come along with it either. Tell us about some of your journey. Easy starting a business. You're living in a how many square foot apartment?
So originally, when we found out we were expecting twins, it was about 800 square feet.
Okay, yeah, that's not enough room for two people, let alone
So we were frantic. We found a place on East Boulevard. It's actually torn down. Right after we moved out, they condemned it.
Okay. Oh wow.
It was right across the street from Paper Skyscraper. Now it's beautiful $1 million townhomes, but it was not that when we lived there.
Right.
We found it by accident. Honestly, it wasn't by accident. It was by God. Honestly, we got in there. It was a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. It was probably built in the early 20s.
Right.
It had a drop ceiling. We had hoarders that lived above us. Our doors had huge gaps. I remember it got really cold the year that they were born, that following February. So it was like 2014. And we had actually a blizzard in Charlotte. And it was so cold in our house, we had to live in our bedroom.
Wow.
So we put towels around all of the doors. We actually had tried to put blankets and stuff around the windows just to keep warm. We had space heaters and we lived out of the bedroom. So it was really interesting to be in a situation where it's like, I have all the things that I need, which is, a roof over my head, my children here were safe and healthy. And we had just sunken all of our money into Easy's business. So we were living off very little. And honestly, that was probably the richest we've ever been.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
What
a
cool
great
thing,
time.
though.
I wish our kids would remember that, because now our lives are a little bit different and they don't know what they came from.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I think but Easy's a very straight up kind of person. You're a very straight up kind of person.
Absolutely.
They're going to see it. And I actually have a friend of mine, I won't call his name, that I played golf with the other day, and he said that one day they were deciding where to go to eat last week, and the wife said, I have a gift certificate to go to P.F. Chang's, and I'm going to call to see if it's on. The kids are in the back seat going, P.F. Chang's, please, no. This is after the flood and everything happened, and after the big rainstorm. He said, we're going to P.F. Chang's and we're not going anywhere else. And they got there. They said, you don't look at a menu. You are not eating. And they're crying while their parents are eating. He's saying, you are not ever going to complain about what you eat ever again. Oh, boy. But I appreciated his discipline, but that was hardcore.
But at the end of the day, I mean, you got to teach kids things, or they have to experience things, one of the two. Right. And sometimes teaching comes with experience. So they didn't know any better.
Absolutely.
We have those same struggles at home.
Sure.
Very much.
Sure.
We're going through some of those struggles right now. We're going through that phase where we think that the hormones are starting to bubble up.
Sure.
The attitudes are starting. They're forgetting their yes ma'ams and no ma'ams. And we've caught them in a couple of lies here lately. And it's jolting because you're like, I'm doing everything right. I've got them in church. Knox wants to be a pastor.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, it's like, why are you lying, buddy? It's not worth it.
Oh, wow.
So, but they just haven't had time to really have that experience to realize that that's not the right way.
I was just listening to a book called Love Your Enemies, and it's by Arthur Brooks, who's a Harvard guy and was part of the Heritage Foundation Fellowship. And he quotes Jonathan Haidt, who is an incredible social scientist out there, that says that children are not born with a blank slate, that they are born with an inner sense of morality. And even babies know how to smile at the right times, cry at the right times, and all those kinds of things, because there's something innate. And Scripture proves that too. Scripture says that there's an inner conscience, an inner voice that we're following, that the Spirit's there anyway.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
How to, animals, when they're born, know to hunt, know how to protect themselves. It's part of our nature, right?
That's the way we're made. Mm-hmm. Wow. One of these days they'll read that and go like, thank you, Mom. What can be really funny is when they have babies of their own and they're crying about because they didn't sleep last night. You say, turn to page 74 and July the 31st after you're born, and I'm going to sleep now. Bye.
Yeah. Right. There was one passage that I wrote. It was a full page, and it was the day that I felt that my life had changed. And God, I'm not going to cry.
That's okay.
It was actually a tear-soaked page, and I was just so tired. Mm-hmm. And I think it was like after I'd gotten past the baby blues, crying in the shower, all that good stuff, I just felt like I was so beat down. And I wrote this whole page that was basically describing my experience as I felt like I had gone through basic training. Like I had went to the Army and everything that I knew of myself had been stripped away. It had been stripped away from lack of showers, lack of sleep, lack of concern for myself, lack of grocery buying, lack of basic needs. And then all of a sudden I wake up one day and I'm like, I am dirty. I am tired. I am nothing.
Wow.
And I've lost my identity. Like all my friends were still living their lives. I felt isolated. But in that,
I bet every woman out there that's had a baby could identify with that.
Yeah. And at the very end of it, I was so grateful.
Yeah.
Because I felt like it was almost like a life baptism in some way. It was like I had realized in that moment that I was made new.
Right.
I was made whole because I had a mission to be their mom. So at first it was really hard, but once I kind of hit that rebirth, I guess you could say, for my identity of like, I'm no longer someone's best friend. I'm no longer, the center of the party, and I now have responsibilities, and these two are my world.
Right.
It all changed.
That's
and it
awesome.
was worth it.
Wow. So you translated that excitement about mothering and nurturing children to something we'll talk about in a few minutes, though. So tell us about you and Easy. So people have heard Easy's side of the story. How about you? How did you guys meet and fall in love and all that kind of stuff?
Honestly, I remember him saying it, and he gave me way more kudos in his meeting with you than I probably deserved. So when we first met, his best friend and my best friend were roommates in Charlotte. He was actually visiting. He lived in Ohio at the time. And you remember steeplechase?
Yes.
Okay, so we were getting ready for steeplechase,
Yep.
and me and my girlfriend walk in, and of course we're wearing spaghetti strap tank tops and roll down shorts because we just got spray tan,
Right.
and you can't let the clothes wipe off your tan.
Okay, right.
So I went for the dark drops. I was wanting to be real tan.
Yeah.
And I walk in, and he's sitting on the couch. Never met this man in my life. And he's like, "Why do you smell so bad? And why you look so weird?" And I was just like, "Who is this loser?"
Yeah.
But anyway, fast forward, about
That's
6
funny.
or 7 months later, we ran into each other again, and we hit it off. And honestly, we've been together ever since. And that was 2009.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Cool stuff. And so you started a business together,
we did.
and it was a fitness business?
Yes.
What'd you call it?
So originally it was Two Pros Fitness. It
Two
was
Pros
him
Fitness,
and
okay.
another gentleman. They had started. He was actually an MMA fighter, one of the originals.
Okay.
And
Easy was an NFL player, for those that don't know and
Yeah.
haven't seen that one. You ought to
Yeah.
go back and watch it, though.
it's a good one. So they had started their little kickboxing gym. I don't want to say little because that downplays it. It was a big gym. It was huge. It was a kickboxing, kind of like 9 rounds before
Yeah.
9 rounds was popular.
Yeah.
We had a kickboxing room. They did a lot of grappling, a lot of stuff like that. But it was a 2-man show, 2-man operation. So this was right when our kids were born. So he would be gone by 4 a.m., not come home till 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and then
Wow.
do it all again. So we were definitely kind of, roommates during that time. Again, it was a time of survival, but I think mom and dads are different. They're just geared different. I was geared towards making a home. I was in that nesting, like we are a family, we're adults, we're living it. It's no longer playing house.
Yep.
And Easy's like, I'm a provider. I have to provide. And, so his gears changed. And of course our marriage took a little bit of strain and all that good stuff, but we never gave up on each other. And honestly, I'm thrilled that he's just persevered and stayed strong, and he's always evolving and growing and getting better. And I mean, so am I. We do it for each other.
You made a good point, though, that you went through hard times and you called that good stuff because it makes you more resilient.
Yeah.
So before Kelly Clarkson said it, Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher, said it, that which does not kill me makes me stronger.
Yep.
Right? And so you learn that kind of resilience to keep getting back
Absolutely.
up and everything. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So tell us about your career and what you're doing now. You're certainly a mom full-time.
Yeah.
But you're also working full-time. Tell us what you do.
Yeah, so I work for an insurance broker that is out in the Raleigh area. They're actually in Holly Springs. It's kind of like a suburb.
Yeah.
And we do benefits for schools and for local government and community colleges. But our territory is North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. So when I first started with this company, I knew I had a passion to help, and I never honestly thought insurance people were my cup of tea.
Interesting.
Right.
Right.
That was just not my cup of tea. And
But now you've proven that wrong
I've proven
because
it
you're
wrong.
interesting.
Yeah. So when I was in the field, I would sit down with teachers one after another. I would talk to them about their benefits. I would help them get things re-enrolled. I would help make sure they had what they need. And I can't tell you how many times I have sat with people and cried, tears of joy or, heartbreak tears with them. I have many people on my Facebook that are friends with me because I helped service them. I was at their schools.
Right.
I have had
So
dinner.
you think it's almost like a ministry for you?
Yeah. I mean, I remember one story. I won't say the counting because if she ever hears this, I don't want her to think I'm talking about her. But
Sure.
she came to, she was my last meeting, and she said, my husband just passed away from cancer. I've never paid a bill in my life. I'm trying to figure out which way is up. And we ended up going to dinner that night. I was like, I'm staying in the area. Let's just, go have dinner. Bring your stuff. I'll help you with your claims.
Yeah.
Well, she had benefits on her husband that she had never claimed. We were able to sit down, go through all of her notes. She was meticulous with keeping notes because she just didn't know what to do with them. And when it was all said and done, I mean, we had gotten close to $50,000 in claims for all the things that she had done with him over a 2-year period. And
Wow.
in that moment, I was like, this is where I need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my job is rewarding. I have a team of 40 individuals over 3 different states that I am in charge of organizing and training and developing for all the benefits in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia for the clients we service. We have about 220 school systems.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have a smile on your face and you're thinking about doing this, I'm sure there's some people that are in it kind of like, I had to help these people out, and they were just really sad story people, and next claim, that kind of stuff. But you got a smile on your face because that brings you joy to do that.
Yeah. And honestly, there's not a lot of joy in my job right now because a lot of our clients that are supposed to be in active enrollment or will be are in the western part of the state. And after Helene, honestly, we're in crisis mode trying to figure out how to help.
Right.
We're trying to help pull claims, trying to help people get claims going, get ready with our carriers, make sure benefits don't get lapsed because buildings are destroyed, lives are destroyed. So it's definitely not fun right now. It's depressing. It's sad, but I know that I have a job to do, and it's going to help these folks.
Yeah, thanks for goodness that you're there to help them, and you're not kind of like just one of those people like next.
Oh yeah, no.
Next,
No.
you want to really help those people, and I'm going to pray, and we should pray for Janna as she ministers those people, because you make a really important point that if you're a Christ follower, your job is not just a job; it needs to be a ministry. I mean, Martin Luther King said, "If you're a street sweeper, you need to sweep the streets like you're sweeping the streets of heaven."
Yeah,
doing your very best in your job because there's so much dignity in that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And what's great about the company that I work for, it's the founding people. I guess you could say the father and the 2 sons. They are avid Christians.
Awesome.
When we have our retreats, they pray before we eat. We definitely have that core fundamental value of do what's right. Take care of the least of these. Make sure you're taking care of those folks. And
what's the name of your company, if you don't mind telling us?
It's Pierce Group Benefits.
Pierce Group, okay. Pierce Group Benefits. Y'all remember that out there. If you're in benefits, call Janna. She'll help you.
Yeah, we always want good people, not the people that think that the job is terrible. We want people that like the job and want to help.
And you primarily deal with public sector educational jobs. Like if a guy off the street calls you, that would be something they'd go somewhere else.
Right.
Because this is your niche in the market.
Correct.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Excellent. So help me understand, we've been part of one of those lives. It's a church family. You've been in our church family for a long time. And I remember when I met your mom and your brother for the first time, I think they were coming in to take financial peace like in 2008 or 2009, and they were in the small group that I helped to facilitate. But how's our church helped you at some point in time or most recently just to take your next step in your journey with Christ? What's something that has happened here?
Honestly, that's a big question because I think it's been more of an evolution, right? We were part of a church in the South Charlotte area, and I won't name it, but we felt as though it was more of a pop culture church, and I like to call it was like our it was our segue church.
Yeah,
it was our starter church.
Right,
it got us back to God. Right, it got us
awesome.
back to understanding that we can't do this on our own. That we can't, keep facing the world saying I.
Right.
After Easy got baptized, there we had a Bible study at our homes. And we started kind of noticing that the gospel was not present. And we were church homeless for a while. That's when we actually started coming to the point in Belmont.
Right.
But it was about 45-minute drive.
Too far.
With 2 little ones, it was hard. So once we finally got back into a rhythm and we decided that we were going to make the point our home, we were actually not going to church consistently. And it showed. Our marriage was not great. Our relationships with our kids, our friends, everything was just not centered around the common core of what needed to be there. But it wasn't until we made the decision that church has got to be the center of our home that we started to kind of see changes. We're not as stressed out because we know that it's all in God's hands, right?
Amen.
We used to fret over everything. Like everything was a crisis. Everything was just bigger than us, but we are the ones that are going to fix it. And once that was released from us, it was not as crazy. It was,
Awesome.
it's like a weight was lifted. So as we started going to church more and more, we started realizing that we have a duty as Christians. We have a duty to not only think for ourselves and what we believe in and make sure it aligns with, what God wants us to align with, but it also needs to be expressed in our tithe. So that was our first step, was to become more consistent with our tithe.
Awesome.
If we get a bonus, then we account for the bonus. If we have a raise in our pay, then we make those modifications, and we try to challenge ourselves when we can. And when I started seeing how the church actually spends the money, I felt like a connection of, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Awesome.
I felt like I was a part of it.
Yeah.
There has definitely been a calling on my heart to get in and serve. I've actually reached out to a few different people to see how I could get involved. And it is hard when you're working a job that requires travel. You've got kids that have sports and all that good stuff. And
a busy husband growing his own business.
Yeah, exactly. So the point has been great with helping me find things that I can do without having to have an absolute, line in the sand commitment. So I was so blessed. I was like, Brittany, call me if you need any more decorations, because I loved doing the fall decorations for our kids' point and putting the leaves together for them. And then me and my mom came and wrapped all the presents, all the pictures, and got to decorate. So I got to help with that, which is fun.
Cool.
And then I joined the pickleball group.
Oh,
They've
good.
never seen my face because I haven't been able to get.
Yeah. Well, you're going to get there eventually, right?
Eventually, I get to watch it. I need to get active. That's my problem. And then, recently I caught Justin to see how I could help with Collision, and I'm trying to help them trying to find a venue. And I try to just insert myself where I know I can give 100% of myself for the amount of time that I know that I can give.
Right. So you're helping us find a Christmas party venue?
I'm hoping.
Oh, good. Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm trying. So I found a place that doesn't have the date that they need. So we're looking at the dates, and then hopefully we can find something else. But I know I have talents. I know I am called. Is it something that I can do and apply myself where I can? Yeah. And I feel like that's really called me to be closer to the church. Another thing that I think is great is that I'm excited. I've already signed up for my first small group.
Excellent.
And I'm going to do the Habits of the Family.
Fantastic.
That starts on, I think, October 11th.
Right.
Is that right?
With
on
Brittany?
Sundays.
Yep.
I'm going to do that because Sundays are usually pretty light. We go to church, and then as a family, we always have lunch.
Right.
So after lunch, I can get someone to take my kid to soccer, and then I can go figure out how to make good habits in my household.
That's interesting, isn't it? These days, church completes with soccer practice and football practice and all those things. Understandable, but it's kind of become the new religion, right?
I know.
And it competes with everything. And so I don't know if you're like I am. Having had kids that played travel baseball, travel softball, travel volleyball, that kind of stuff, or travel volleyball, not travel softball. Yeah. Is that we didn't want our kids to go like, no, you can't go because it's Sunday and you're the preacher. So we did some of that. We would sometimes take time off for them to have Sunday experiences and have tournaments out of town and that kind of stuff. And it is a balancing act as a parent because you want to teach them to respect the day that's the first day of the week. But by the same token, their friends are living in the world this way too. Right. And, we were able to work out a compromise. I think it was good for everybody.
It's tough. People that are outnumbered by kids, I don't know how they do it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't. I honestly don't. I have so many questions.
Yeah. Like, right, really.
Like, when do you shower?
Yeah.
Like, when do you eat? When do you get gas? Like, how do you just do basic things because you're outnumbered in activities and birthday parties? And, I mean, it's a lot. It's
one child has 5 friends and you got 20 parties, right?
Gosh, I know, right?
And there's no doubt about it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
you've got some really powerful things that have been part of your life and that you've dealt with, and you've overcome lots of important things too. It's interesting to me now that you're choosing to do something to try to make a difference in the community. Talk to us about what you're running to do and why you're doing that.
I'm running for school board. So I'm trying to obtain one of the seats for Gastonia Township. So it's the only seat for Gastonia Township. But honestly, It's difficult to pinpoint what really called me to do it, honestly, because there's just so many things that kind of came together. And I feel like, God puts you in situations and puts people in your life at the right time. For my job, it was the right time. Then I got to experience thousands of teachers.
Yeah.
And their problems. And the problems are very similar in our state. And then when you go to South Carolina or Virginia, the conversations are a little bit different. So I guess my thought process is like, I have a really good lens. I have a really good perspective from the teachers that I've talked to. I mean, thousands and thousands about what's important to them. And I feel like that voice could possibly be heard a little bit louder. I feel like as a mom of children in the public school system, and we've been in a different school system, that we can see real quickly how things can turn.
Yeah.
It's a lot of small decisions that are added up to make a big picture. And one day you wake up and you realize that this is not the picture that you thought you were drawing.
Right.
And so I think even the smallest of decisions that happen on a school board need to have the perspective of, is this going to impact us on a larger scale much later? And I want to make sure that I have a voice for that, because I've experienced what that can turn into in a different school system that doesn't have the same beliefs as us.
Right.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
So I think I saw somewhere where you said that there are 30,000 reasons you were doing this.
Yeah.
And that is what?
That's the students.
The students, 30,000 kids in our school system plus,
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, there's kids of all different walks of life, right? I mean, there's kids that English is their second language. There are kids that are not as privileged to have, good shelter or are in the foster care system, or have special needs as far as like their abilities and capacities to learn and understand. And I feel like we're at this point where we're at a crossroads in our nation, and that is going to impact our schools ultimately. So we have to kind of watch our own community. And my eye is more or less focused on competency. I think competency needs to be more to the center. We need to be producing critical thinkers. We need to have the ability for children to learn the way they need to learn. And I'm seeing a lot of curriculum options, a lot of curriculum, I don't want to say diluting of Common Core, but that's what I'm seeing. We're getting more towards technology and away from books. We're getting into the wrong kinds of books and not promoting the right kinds of books. We are seeing, children are kind of being left by the wayside because there's not enough resources to take care of their need or their language barrier or whatever. And I think as a citizen, if you want something done, then you got to speak up. Either you got to run for office, you got to vote, you've got to be an advocate, because ultimately these people are going to be flooded into our community as adults. They're going to be adults a lot longer than their kids.
Sure.
Right? So I think we have a responsibility as a community to do something. And I can tell you, hopefully my kids don't go back and listen to this later, but they failed the reading EOG twice, 2 years in a row. But they're very smart. One of them's an AIG for math. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how do I do better? We've had tutors, we've had workshops. And I think it's back to, there's too many options for curriculum, and we need to narrow that down so that we can really see what's happening, what's being taught, and we take the pressure off the teachers from having to pick.
Right.
Keep it simple, the KISS method, right?
Right.
That's another problem too. I mean, I could literally go on. I mean, how many sessions do we have, right? Am I going to be all the way through episode 50? Because I could do it. I think the other issue is that we're seeing that there's a lot that's expected from teachers. Teachers are expected to be teachers and counselors and nurses and social workers and authoritative figures and parents. I mean, they're pseudo everything. And it's really hard to do a job when you don't get compensated for everything. Right. And at the school level, you don't have the authority to do, changes in pay or anything like that, but you have the authority to be annoying.
Right.
And you have the authority to go and speak. I mean, anybody does, right?
Right.
To go to that state level and make it very clear of what the needs are in your community. And this is statewide. And also educate those folks and get them in touch with good people that want to see educators being taken care of. People like Donnie Loftus and John Torbett that want to get teacher pay increase, but they're fighting against the Senate.
Right.
So, I mean, we've got to vote for the right people from the school board all the way up.
So you explained something to me yesterday I'd never heard before.
Yeah.
That it's probably be good for people that are out there that have their kids in public school, or those that have public school teachers. Like I have a daughter that teaches at Belmont Central. The 60-90 plan.
Yeah.
And John Torbett has been an advocate for this, and Johnny's
100%.
been supportive. Tell us what the 60-90 plan is.
Yeah, so it's funny. I was actually at a forum speaking, and I was talking about how if someone asked me, "What do you think about teacher pay?" And I was like, "I think it's deplorable. I think they're educated individuals are getting paid less." And he actually, John Torbett, had spoke up and had said, that's why we need to get the 60-90 plan in place. And I was like, do say more.
Yeah.
And basically it's an entry level at 60 and a cap at 90 before, we start looking at bringing back master's pay and different incentives and national boards and things like that. So it's to raise the bar to where it's okay to be a single parent and a teacher.
Yeah.
Because right now you can't be a single parent hardly on a teacher pay.
Right.
It's impossible.
Particularly if you've got to pay for daycare. That just, you can
Daycare.
drive or eat or pay for daycare, right?
After taxes come out, what's your take home to even take care of your family, pay your mortgage, pay your rent? I mean, it's tough.
So I hear you advocating for teacher pay. I hear you advocating for simplifying the curriculum. I hear you saying that it's important that we set people up for success, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
I love our school board, and they're good friends that are on there across the spectrum.
Yeah, they agree.
And they're good people that are seeking to make good decisions. But the lady that you're taking the place of, Dot Guthrie, has been there for a long time.
Hopefully, I'll take her spot.
Well, maybe right. You're up against some good opponents and people that have something to offer as well too. But I really like the philosophy that you have, and I'm as your pastor, grateful that you're willing to take the shot to get out there and to run and that kind of stuff. Too many people complain. You can look yourself in the mirror every day by saying, well, I'm trying to do something about this instead of just sitting at home and twiddling my thumbs or just talking on the phone about it.
Yeah.
So everybody needs to vote. And I would make the argument too that while everybody in our culture is enamored with our national election and who's going to be in charge of Washington, somebody said years ago, all politics is local. Certainly those things affect us in general from a distance, but these are the kind of people, Janna, and the people that are running for these seats that are making the difference right where you are with boots on the ground.
Yeah. There was a scary statistic that was shared with me at a recent GOP meeting, and honestly, it was astounding. I'll have to true this up later, but it was a high number. It was like 200,000 people only voted for the president. They didn't finish their ballot.
Wow. Because they don't know who they're voting for.
They don't know who to vote for.
Yeah.
Or they didn't do the research, or they just honestly didn't care about the local politics. So it was a really high number in the state, and I want to say it was like 200,000. Right. I really want to say that's what it was.
Wow.
I'll have to true that up in church on Sunday. But
that's okay.
And it was basically this large number, and it could have dictated, had those people have voted, on who's actually in those current seats.
Right.
And if we have an election year like that where it's super close, even at the local level,
right,
people got to finish their ballots.
Yeah.
They really do. And if you don't know who to vote for, don't leave it blank. Get educated before you go. So voting is one thing, but being a responsible voter is another.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it takes time.
Flip
so
it over,
for instance,
front and back.
When you're voting for judges, for years I would go like, I don't know Billy Bob Johnson or Julianne Wilson or anything like that. But what I decided to do is to go to those people that actually are in the judicial system that I trusted, people like Jesse Caldwell, who is just a good longtime friend of mine, that kind of stuff. Well, I said, here's these 4 or 5 people for this judge. Here's this person who wants to be Supreme Court justice. And to his credit, while he is a certain party, he said, this person's good, and it was across party lines. He said, I have great trust for this individual. I have this person's a really sharp person. They're young, but they've got really good experience. And I would just challenge those that are out there that if you don't know who to vote for, ask people,
have conversations.
Bill Ward, the soil commissioner. All right, here's the deal. Water. So soil and water is pretty important right now. Everybody's mind is on how did that water wash down the mountain when the Hurricane Helene hit us. They're very important positions that impact our daily life. And I would say, for instance, that the school board position you're running for and the soil and water position, I think that we have 2 in our local area, are more important than who's going to be president. I could make that argument. Obviously, I care about at the top too, but by the same token, politics are local. So get to know the people and the candidates. And Janna's running against other people. Get to know those other candidates if that's the case. And she wants you to do that. I hear a lot of responsibility. Plus, I hear from you, from what you said earlier, that this is more, your job is more than a job.
Yeah.
Being a
absolutely.
mom is more than just being a mom, but you care about your steps you're taking in your ministry and the difference you're able to make in the lives of people.
Absolutely.
That's
and
awesome.
It starts with plugging yourself in, right?
That's right.
You as a pastor, I don't know how you do it. I mean, you're involved in so much in the community and you're putting yourself out there. And I think all of us could take a page out of your book.
Wow.
Put yourself out there, be a part of your community. If you're in the community and you're not voting or you're not standing up for anything or you're not advocating for anything, then are you really part of the community?
Right.
Are you giving back to it?
Right.
Or are you just complaining about it?
Yep.
So protect.
It's good stuff. Protect and provide. You're doing good things. You're wanting the very best to happen.
Yeah,
and we still live in the greatest country in all the world.
Amen.
I mean, every time I leave it and I get back, before I kiss Andrea, I kiss a column or I kiss the ground or
Don't kiss a doorknob.
I go get it. I go kiss the Chick-fil-A sandwiches, in the airport if they happen to have one, whether it's Miami or Washington or wherever.
Yeah. We
We are very blessed and very fortunate to be able to do that. And I'm just grateful that you're willing to take that step. And they can find out more about you. Is there a website or something they should go to?
Yes,
or something
I
like
have
that?
a website. It's not super great. It's not super fancy. We're a small operation.
Right?
I'm not running a presidential campaign.
Yeah.
But it is electjannasmith.com. So it's JANNA
Okay.
Smith.
Fantastic.
And then I have social media posts on Facebook and Instagram, and those are weekly. I have multiple a week, putting out what I stand for, what I believe in, so people can really get to know me. I think that was my most important mission, was making sure that I was accessible for anyone to know what I stand for. And I'm pretty active on there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, well, this is powerful. I want to, before in the last few minutes we have together, I want to ask you some questions that just about personal preferences, because our audience likes to know kind of what you like to do.
Okay.
So
bring it on.
I know the answer to this question, but I'll go ahead and ask it. Did both you and Easy go to the Barbie movie?
No. And I cannot tell you how I watched the Barbie movie, because it's not
Right.
good.
You and your girlfriends got together, went to the Barbie movie or something like that. We can leave it like that.
We figured out how to watch it online.
Okay.
It had Korean commercials in it, and we all wore pink
Oh,
in
okay.
pajamas, but it was fun. We ended up buying it because I felt guilty, so I went on Apple TV and bought it. But I
Oh,
was
that's
like,
cool.
Why should I have to buy it?
That's cool.
So, yeah.
It's good stuff. So, have you ever been out of the country?
Yes, I have. I've
Okay.
been out of the country, but not very often.
So where have you gone?
So for Easy's 40th, I surprised him and took him to Mexico.
Nice.
I've been Dominican Republic for a bachelorette party. Pretty much that's about it. Like, I just kind of go south.
So then I'll ask you this question. Would you rather go to Europe or would you rather go to Asia?
Europe,
Okay. Would you rather go to London or Paris?
London,
Would you rather go to the palace or to the parliament?
Parliament,
Okay. Would you rather go on a river tour or an air tour of London?
river.
Okay, cool. Awesome. That's
Yeah.
good. Learned a
Those are
lot
good
of
questions anymore.
powerful
I feel
things.
like I'm getting to know myself now.
As you're getting to know what you're making those choices. That's a good choice. I just got back from London back in April, ran the London Marathon, and it's definitely worthy of all those kinds of things.
So to go to London, do you have to run in a marathon?
No,
'Cause
you
if that's
don't.
the case, I'm
No.
not going.
You don't. As a
Count
matter of
me
fact, check your mental illness before you get on
There
the
you go.
plane. Although
There
we
you go.
did
My
have a
sneakers are for show, not for activities.
well, they're working. I always look when I run. I love to do it for another reason. So we run for World Vision, Team World Vision, and
Yeah.
raise money. I think we raised among 23 people about $275,000. It was
I remember
powerful.
that announcement in church. I was like, oh my gosh, he's just so amazing.
Well, it's just because people are amazing to sponsor us.
Sponsor, yeah.
I'm not that amazing runner anymore. There was a time when I could have been a lot more competitive, but now it's all about just finishing. So, would you go to the Hawaiian Islands or to the Bahamas?
Honestly, I would say neither. I'm a redhead, so I'm like anti-sun. Like,
Okay.
if I can get away from the sun, I would go to the mountains. any
Okay,
day.
then Ireland or Scotland.
Ireland.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Pretty
I'm
country.
anti-sun
up there.
all the way around. I'm like, ugh.
Food. Do you like simple food or fancy food?
Depends on the day.
Okay.
Depends on who made it. If my mom made it, always my mom. It could be
Okay.
simple or not. Or fancy. I'm gonna
Okay,
eat
she
it.
can make simple and fancy food.
Gosh, she's so good.
Okay.
Honestly, if you're going to like a restaurant, I kind of like the fancy food because I like to try new things,
Yep.
right? I like to mix different herbs and stuff like that.
So help people out there that, you're kind of a foodie right now. And there's some people who are listening to you. Where's a couple of fancy food places you go to?
Okay, so I am a sushi person. I love sushi so much. There is a place, and I'm trying to remember the name. I want to say it's Caillou. It's in South End, and it's in like the furniture district, and it's on the corner. I can drive there. I can't tell you how to get there though.
Yeah.
But you would never know that it was there. And they have a tuna black truffle sushi roll that I get.
Mm-hmm. Good.
It is so good.
Worth going there for.
It is so good. I mean, it's just like, it's so earthy and just full of food, like flavor, and the food is great. But if you're looking for local spots that are really cool, I don't know if you know this, but my brother is the starter of Gaston Foodies.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he's the one that posts about local restaurants and all that stuff in Gaston County.
And your brother's name is?
Josh.
Josh Boswell. So Gaston Foodies.
Yes.
Is it like Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah. He's got like 1,000 or so followers.
That's awesome.
I was impressed. Good job, Josh.
Fantastic.
That's what we call him.
Or say, could you go to Tony's for ice cream, or do you go to? Okay, so
You don't have to give me another option.
Okay, what do you get there?
I usually alternate between grape or banana pudding.
Like it?
Milkshake every time.
Good choice.
No lid.
Man, that place is open all the time too.
So
Mr. Collette is like my hero, and he's always there
is.
over the corner watching, making sure everything's running right. That's
his
pretty
son
cool.
and my son are really good friends, so we've gotten to know each other. They are amazing people. I mean, just inside and out. Him and Nikki both are they're just amazing people.
Right. So we've already answered this kind of day person or night person.
Night.
Right. So when you're up late at night, what are you doing?
Well, it depends, right? If it's during the week, a lot of times I'll end up working late during our busy season. Like, so last night I didn't get off a work call until 7:30.
Okay.
But sometimes I'm just scrolling, checking on messages from my campaign, or sometimes I'll just put on something in the background and play with my dog or whatever. So honestly, I'm trying to unwind.
Cool.
Yeah.
Understandable. So, are you a Braves fan or Yankees fan?
Braves.
Okay, there we go. So as we were recording this today, we're still in the playoffs, although we've lost the first game to the San Diego Padres. I hope by the time we watch this, we're still in it. But if not, it's been a pretty good year, even despite all the injuries and stuff people have had. Right, absolutely. So do you enjoy, do you get your energy alone, or do you get your energy around people? How do you renew?
I am an extrovert. I love being social, but I do have a threshold, right? So I will go to a party. I will be the life of the party. Anybody that knows me knows that about me, that I'm goofy. But when it's time to like be alone, like leave me alone.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't bother me.
I completely get that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Easy's learned to pick up on that, and he's really good at it.
You ready to leave, aren't you?
And I'm like,
yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
That's cool. So as we draw our time to conclusion today, is there something that you'd like to share with people that's a thought for life, or a saying that means a lot to you, or an ethic that you have, or a scripture that really means a lot to you that you inspire us with as we leave today?
That was a loaded question that you should have given me a heads up on, because I've got so many.
Well, you can say all of them. It's okay. You don't have to have just one.
We'll get to episode 50. Honestly, it kind of depends. On my situation, I lean a lot on relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you need to lean on the right relationships. Just don't be a relationship hoarder, right? Find people that are uplifting, that are going to make you a better you. And sometimes you have to reevaluate your circles. I have gone through that in the past few years where my circle of friends has changed. I went through a spot where God was not putting the right people in my life, and I was just kind of left to kind of figure out who I was. Realize that those times are needed. Sometimes you need to be rebuilt. Sometimes you need to have that space. Sometimes you need to have the ability to figure out what you need. And God's doing something. So be patient. It was not time for us to move. It was not time for us to get certain jobs. It was not time for us to do certain things. And everything happens in the right time if you have faith in the Lord.
Wow.
And
pay attention to timing.
Yeah, timing is everything. And then understanding that the timing has purpose.
Right. Even the hard times where you feel separated and not connected.
Yeah. There was times where I went through struggles still to this day, daily. I have struggles with reminding myself, Janet, you're a Christian. Like, stop. Or you shouldn't say that. Or, you know, it's constant correction. But if you start surrounding yourself with the right people at the right times, I feel that you get lifted up the right way. Right. I have a really good relationship with my mother. I don't know if everybody else has that same pillar in their life, but find your pillar. She used to own a Christian bookstore in town. She owned Dayspring Christian Bookstore. We still have wrapping paper. Yeah. Wow. In Tennessee. So we were raised in the Church of God. She went through a lot of hard times in her journey with the Lord, and seeing how she has just remained faithful. And I don't know. I want to grow up to be like that. I still don't feel like I'm grown, but I want to feel like I can look back and say I was faithful. Yeah. I was faithful in my relationships, my timing, my trust, everything. And I think it takes a lot of discipline and understanding to know that not everything's going to work out the way you want it to. And it's okay because the timing wasn't right.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool because we live in kind of an instant world. Yeah. And so Kathy's going to be your mom's going to be happy to know that she's your hero. Yeah. But we live in that kind of world where you turn on television, every 30 minutes somebody's house changes. Yep. And everybody's happy. And they got picked, and that's just not real, right? You just built a house.
I did,
which is like that's just a hard thing to do.
It is
patience. You got to wait on stuff, and even if you love your builder, like I know you do, Andrew Lineberger,
he's amazing.
Is a great place and is a great person. Builds great places and that kind of stuff. It just takes some time and patience.
Yeah, but do you know that we built that house, and that was a blessing because we actually were trying to move back to Gaston County quicker because we were trying to get out away from the schools and all the crazy stuff there. But we got into a bid war here. We lost that house. We were devastated.
So you had a house that you really loved.
Yeah. Oh, it was devastating.
Yeah.
Then we tried to buy another piece of land and we lost that one. It was devastating. And had we have gotten those things, we wouldn't be where we are now, which is where we're supposed to be. So
yeah. And you live in a beautiful place too.
Thank you. I think everything happens in the right time, in the right order, and you just have to be faithful. And you just have to trust that it's going to work out.
Wow, that's really powerful. Well, we could drop the mic right there. I guess that's what we should do because life goes on. But man, Janna Smith, congratulations on your willingness to go and serve in the community, but also to serve people that are down and out right now with benefits and stuff like that. And I think you've taught some people today to make your job your ministry, to make sure you understand their seasons of life and friendships and those kinds of things, and to have a big why that you're answering in everything you do. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Any last words?
Vote for me.
That's very good. That's good. Well, so, you've got your instructions now. Just thanks for sharing your life with us. And we'll see you next time on the Next Step podcast, which will be episode 45. And on behalf of me, Janna Smith, and Brent Oakes, our master sound engineer, producer, who found the hard drive today, we're grateful. And you guys have a great day.